Hello and welcome to Firstpost America, your home for the biggest stories shaping the US and the world. I'm Cary, Johnston, live from the Firstpost studios. Our top story on the show today. More details are revealed over the killing of Mexican drug lord El Mencho, amid the deaths of scores of people and the subsequent unrest. Also on the program, Russia and Ukraine mark 4 years of war as the world pauses to reflect on the ongoing consequences. The battle for control over artificial intelligence takes a new twist as the Pentagon summons a big tech CEO. And a student food pantry photo in Ireland goes viral, sparking racist online abuse against Indian students. On Monday, Mexico woke up to soldiers on the streets. This after the country's most wanted drug lord, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, better known as El Mencho, was killed. Fear spread almost as fast as the news itself. El Mencho was the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG, one of Mexico's most powerful and ruthless criminal organizations. His empire trafficked fentanyl, methamphetamine, and cocaine into international markets. On Sunday, Mexican special forces finally caught up with him at a ranch in Jalisco state. And then the clashes began. Cartel members flooded the streets in at least 20 states. More than 70 people died in the unrest and its aftermath. Well, to bring the situation under control, the Mexican government has now responded with force. It's deployed an additional 2,500 soldiers to western Mexico on Monday, bringing the total troop presence to roughly 9,500. According to Defense Secretary Ricardo Trevilla, agents tracked El Mencho through one of his personal relationships with intelligence help from the US.
Through military intelligence work, we located a trusted person of one of El Mencho's romantic partners who transported her to a facility in the town of Tapalpa, Jalisco. At that location, she met with El Mencho, this romantic partner, and on February 21st, she left the property, and we obtained information that El Mencho remained at that location.
Se retira del inmueble y se obtuvo información.
According to Mexico's defense secretary, the entire operation was carried out in 24 hours. And to avoid arousing suspicion, the mission was primarily carried out by ground forces with limited air support from helicopters.
They went into a wooded area. This cabin complex was on the outskirts of Tapalpa, so adjacent to it was a wooded area, and that's where El Mencho and his inner circle headed. A perimeter was established. Special forces personnel pursued them. They located him hidden in the brush. They opened fire against the special forces personnel.
President Claudia Sheinbaum praised the Army's operation. She assured citizens that peace and stability in the region will return soon. And she made one point clear: no US forces took part in the raid itself.
All operations are carried out by federal forces. There is no U.S. participation in the operation. What there is, as we have said here several times, is a great deal of information sharing. The understanding with the United States is based primarily on the exchange of intelligence information. In this case, the U.S. government provided information and even issued an intelligence statement, but the entire operation, from planning onwards, is the responsibility of federal forces, in this case, the Ministry of National Defense.
Sheinbaum is under mounting pressure from Donald Trump to clamp down harder on drug trafficking. But the crackdown and the violence that followed sent shockwaves beyond the political sphere. It brought daily life in key cities to a sudden standstill.
Honestly, well, I'm coming to school with worry, I'm coming with some fear and apprehension because we don't know how it's going to reach us or what kind of impact it will have here in the capital, even though it was in Jalisco. We were actually on tentative class suspension because there are classmates who come from the state of Mexico, right?
In Guadalajara, schools were shut and public transport was suspended As fearful families stayed indoors, tourists head inside hotels, watching the unrest unfold from behind glass windows.
It's definitely really scary. I hope that it ends soon. This is supposed to be like a vacation, a sanctuary where everything is peaceful. And then now it's like I'm currently in a war zone. So that is really nerve-wracking. We had to cancel all of our trips that we planned for the next few days. We were going to go on a fishing trip, and we can't do that anymore because we'll be like floating ducks in the water, and it's just completely unsafe. Hopefully this ends soon. I'm not sure when it will, but we've been hearing that it's going to go on for weeks.
Mencho's death sends a message, but it also creates a vacuum. Analysts are warning that his killing could trigger a domino effect beyond Mexico, especially in Ecuador and Colombia, where parts of the CJNG's cocaine network operates. Their regional partners may renegotiate routes, and rival groups may begin fighting for control. Well, it's all opened up a tinderbox of difficult questions. What happens when one of the hemisphere's most powerful crime bosses falls? And does the government have the resources and the will to continue the fight? Well, for more on this now, we're joined by Juan Pablo Luna, the Diamond Brown Chair in Democratic Studies at McGill University and Professor of Political Science there. He's joining us live from Montreal, Canada. Welcome to the program. How much power then do these cartels actually have, do you think, especially when you consider the scale of the violence that has followed El Mencho's death?
Yeah, this is one of the most violent cartels in Mexico history. Probably it's the strongest one at this point. And to understand the situation, I mean, what we need to understand is that this is not only a drug trafficking organization. I mean, that's one of their business, but the other business has to do with providing security and hegemonizing violence in certain territories. So this cartel was prominent and became prominent after a previous backing by centralizing power and monopolizing coercion in a significant chunk of Mexican territory. So what you're fighting here is an organization that also has alliances with political figures, with political authorities, with police forces, in which are also highly fragmented. And therefore, I mean, what has happened here is that with the death of El Mencho, you essentially kick a hornet nest, right? And so the situation is incredibly volatile, as you were describing. Much of what will happen will have to do with succession and how this succession is played out.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, then, if I can just jump in there for a moment.
Yeah.
I mean, to what extent has all of this been prompted by threats from US President Donald Trump, especially after what happened in Venezuela?
Yeah, I mean, like Trump's and Trump's role in this new era of hemispheric relations has been a disruptive force, right? In terms of the geopolitical forces that are playing out in the region, and this also has to do with his like relationship to Claudia Sheinbaum and like how that plays in Morena, which is the leading party in Mexico. He had a difficult relation with AMLO, the predecessor of Claudia Sheinbaum. AMLO embraced a policy that was called abrazos no balazos, which meant hugs instead of bullets, right? And which essentially predicated the need for a more kind of like consensual and less aggressive strategy on cartels, departing from Mexico's war on drugs that started in 2006 under Felipe Calderón. And now, I mean, this switch that the Mencho's assassination signifies and portrays also means that within Morena, you have a change of a strategy, and that change certainly will have a lot to do with what the U.S. Has been advocating in the region.
Given what you say, then, I mean, how much of a challenge is this to Claudia Sheinbaum's authority as Mexico's president?
Well, I mean, that's up in the air, right? And on the one side, I mean, you have this all this narrative that has to do with the U.S. triggering this operation. On the other hand, like the U.S. has often allied with the Marine forces in Mexico. This was an operation carried over by the armed forces, not by the Marines. And Mexico has been very, and Mexican officials have been very clear that they did this with information contributed by the U.S. and U.S. Agencies, but this was a Mexican-built operation. This also has to do with a rising figure on the which is the Mexico Security Minister, Omar Garcia Harfuch. He was heavily injured a few years down by El Mencho, by an operation called by El Mencho. He was Claudia Sheinbaum's security minister in Mexico City, where she was the mayor of Mexico's capital. And now he became the Ministry of Security. And my sense is that he is starting to position himself as a strong hand or mano dura leadership within Morena, right? That might eventually come to contest the next election and the succession of Morena.
Okay, so we're going to have to leave it there. Forgive me, we're out of time. But Juan Pablo Luna, we appreciate your insights. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
4 years ago to the day before dawn broke over Kyiv in Ukraine, the sound of explosions shattered the quiet of a winter morning. On the 4th anniversary of the Russia-Ukraine war, the world pauses to remember how that single day transformed Europe and how its consequences are still unfolding. Marking the day, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky released a video address. He laid flowers at a makeshift memorial and issued a message to Russia's President Vladimir Putin, saying that Russia had failed in its bid, in its original war goals. So he turned the focus to US President Donald Trump.
I really want to come here with the President of the United States one day. I know for certain, only by coming to Ukraine and seeing with one's own eyes our life and our struggle, feeling our people and the enormity of this pain, only then can one understand what this war is really about.
Well, hours earlier, he had urged Trump to stand with Ukraine. Since Trump's return to the White House, there have been several rounds of talks in Istanbul, Abu Dhabi, and Geneva.
Just yesterday, there was another round of trilateral talks between the U.S., Russia, and Ukraine. There was meaningful progress made in both parties. Both sides agreed to update their respective leaders and to continue to work towards a peace deal together.
Zelensky has now turned to Europe to gather support. He's urged the European Union to give a clear date for Ukraine's accession into the bloc. Several European leaders, including EU chief Ursula von der Leyen, visited Kyiv today to mark the anniversary of the war. Meanwhile, Russia has hit back at Zelensky's comments, saying that it will keep fighting until the country fulfills its war goals. The cost of the war has been staggering. Entire cities in Ukraine's east and south, Bakhmut, Toretsk, Volchansk, lie in ruins. The World Health Organization has verified more than 2,800 attacks on healthcare facilities. And strikes on energy infrastructure have left millions without heat and electricity during the brutal winter.
This last year has been the hardest for me personally. The blackouts, the power cuts, the cold. Attacks got more frequent. Those are just examples. When you see that drones, missiles are on their way at 8 or 9 in the evening, you think about getting dressed, sleeping fully clothed, with documents in your backpack.
When Ukrainian citizens say they did not expect the war to last this long.
I don't think any Ukrainians thought the war would last this long. But Russia had been preparing for it for a very long time. They were producing missiles and aircraft. Everything depends on one person. It all depends on Putin, the president of Russia. He started this war and he must end it.
Around 1/5 of Ukraine's land is now contaminated by mines or unexploded ordnance, according to the United Nations. The UN has verified more than 15,000 civilian deaths in Ukraine, though it says the real number is likely to be far higher. Ukrainian retaliatory strikes on Russian border regions have also killed hundreds. And then there's territory, the central issue in the war. A recent analysis by AFP found that Russian gains in the 4th year of the war exceeded the previous 2 years combined. Moscow controls nearly 20% of Ukraine, according to the Institute for the Study of War. 7% of this, such as Crimea and parts of Donbass, had already been under Russian control before 2022. Well, the Kremlin is pushing for full control of Donetsk and a halt to Western military support for Kyiv. Ukraine argues that conceding territory would leave it permanently vulnerable and is constitutionally impossible. The war's shockwaves, though, have stretched far beyond the battlefield. Ukraine's economy shrank nearly 1/3 after Russia's invasion and now relies on IMF and foreign loans for daily spending. Russia's economy has slowed in the years since the war began, posting just 1% GDP growth last year. Businesses and consumers in the country are struggling to keep up with growing costs.
As the summer ended, difficulties started. People's purchasing power dropped here. We tried to grow, tried to hold different events. We actually have a really great business community in Kommunarka, district of Moscow, including business ladies, and we did a lot of collaborations, not only in our neighborhood, in the Spanish Quarters, residential complex, but across all of the district. But it seems we just didn't have enough time or our own resources to keep going in this business.
So as another February 24th comes and goes, the guns and missiles continue to fire as the negotiations fail to deliver a long-awaited peace. Well, still to come on the programme, viral baby hippo Deng is back in the spotlight, not for good reasons. But first, to a significant development in the United States. It represents a clash between national security, global power politics, and artificial intelligence. Dario Amodei, the CEO of artificial intelligence company Anthropic, has been summoned by US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to the Pentagon. It's a high-stakes meeting about the future of the company's AI assistant, Claude, within America's military systems. Well, senior defense officials say the discussions are expected to be tough. Claude is the only AI model deployed within the US military's classified networks. It's an essential tool for intelligence operations and defense planning. Well, the tension stems from a memo issued by Hegseth earlier this year. The document urged AI companies to remove certain limitations on how their models can be used by the US military. The Pentagon desires more freedom to deploy AI in sensitive operations. Anthropic, on the other hand, has pushed back. The company has called for strong safeguards against American mass surveillance and the creation of weapons that are completely autonomous. Adding to the pressure, the Pentagon has already signed a deal with Elon Musk's AI company, xAI. It's also close to finalizing an agreement with Google for its Gemini model. Well, these moves are seen as a signal that the Defense Department does have other options.
The United States must win the strategic competition for 21st century technological supremacy. Artificial intelligence, autonomous systems, quantum, hypersonics, and long-range drones. If you talk to Elon Musk long enough, he will tell you how important hypersonics and long-range drones are, and he's 100% correct. Space capabilities, directed energy, and biotechnology are the new areas of global competition.
In fact, Hegseth has made it clear that the military needs AI systems that can operate without what he calls ideological constraints and outline the department's strategy.
Strategy will unleash experimentation, eliminate bureaucratic barriers, focus on investments, and demonstrate the execution approach needed to ensure we lead in military AI and that it grows more dominant into the future. In short, we will win this race by becoming an AI-first warfighting force across all domains, from the back offices of the Pentagon to the tactical edge on the front lines.
Well, Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic, has been outspoken about his ethical concerns. He's issued a warning against the unchecked use of AI by the government. He also argues that AI may be misused to monitor billions of conversations and influence public opinion. Last year, the Defense Department signed a $200 million pilot contract with Anthropic to test its AI technology. Well, negotiations have since stalled. Officials have warned that if Anthropic does not cooperate, it could be declared a supply chain risk, which could lead to contract terminations and limitations placed on partners using Claude. Anthropic's rivals, including Meta, Google, and xAI, have agreed to the Pentagon's terms for using AI in military applications. As a result, industry experts say Anthropic's negotiating power is limited. Well, as the meeting unfolds, its outcome could reshape how AI is used in war intelligence and national security. This is likely to be a defining moment for both Anthropic and the Pentagon. Now, a photo meant to highlight student struggles in Ireland has now led to racist attacks against Indian students. The image, published by the Irish Times newspaper after a report on food insecurity at a university, shifted the focus from student hardship to online hate. The Irish Times published a report on rising food poverty among students at the University of Galway. The story focused on the Spare Pantry. Now, that's a student-run service that provides subsidised food to those struggling to meet daily needs. The report showed how many students now depend on food support just to continue their studies.
This helps a lot. I struggle to pay rent, so food is lower on my list of priorities. The pantry is a huge asset. The money that I save by coming here might keep me going for a week until my next paycheck comes in.
Well, along with the report, a photo showed students standing in line outside the pantry. The students came from different backgrounds. But when the image was shared on social media, some users focused only on students who looked South Asian. The photo was then used to claim that foreign students were crowding welfare services. Some users claimed most people in the queue were Indian students. Others argue that foreign students should not use food pantries, claiming they're required to prove they can afford living costs to get a visa. A few even called for Indians to be deported. Well, none of these claims were backed up by facts. The original article gave no breakdown of the nationalities of students using the pantry. Many users spoke out against the abuse. They said students are turning to food support because they're under financial pressure, not because they're misusing welfare or trying to take unfair advantage of the system. Student groups also said that a single photo cannot represent any one nationality. They urged people to focus on student hardship, not the targeting of migrants. Well, online abuse comes at a time when many Indians in Ireland are already worried about safety. Last year, several Indians were attacked in Dublin, with some cases probed as possible hate crimes. And last month, the Indian Embassy issued an advisory urging citizens to take precautions. The latest online abuse has added to these concerns. More than 10,000 Indian students studied in Ireland last year, and Indians contribute significantly across technology, healthcare, research, and education, with local leaders stressing that the community plays an important role in society. So the photo was never meant to be about nationality, yet a single image was used to try and shift the narrative away from its original purpose about students from all backgrounds struggling to afford basic needs. Now, while the world can't get enough of the lonely baby monkey called Punch, who finally found friendship, 2024's viral animal sensation, baby hippo Mu Deng, is back in the spotlight. Mu Deng charmed millions with her muddy splashes and gentle gaze, but is now at the centre of growing public concern over her living conditions. Viral images circulating online have sparked a debate. Are they evidence of neglect or simply a misunderstood snapshot of nature at work? Here's our report.
She once melted the internet with her shy stares and splashes in the mud. Now Mu Deng is at the center of a very different kind of viral storm. The one-year-old pygmy hippo, a breakout social media darling living at the Khao Kheao Open Zoo in the Thai province of Chonburi, has sparked concern among fans. Images circulated online appeared to show fecal matter inside her closure. The renewed scrutiny began after a conservationist named Siranud Scott posted a message in Thai on X describing Mu Deng's living conditions as sad. He wrote that he saw images of the animal's habitat and found it disheartening, despite the income and international attention the hippo has generated. The post struck a nerve, and users started flooding the comment section with concerns. One commenter urged authorities to stop imprisoning innocent animals for life. Another questioned the plan to build a new house for Mu Deng, asking whether it was appropriate to use donated funds for that purpose. But within hours, Scott also issued a follow-up clarification, urging people not to misinterpret his intentions. A translation of his post states that he did not mean to criticize the caretakers of Mu Deng. Instead, he explained, his broader message was about principle, that animals recognized worldwide and bringing prestige to a nation should enjoy a quality of life, space, safety, and companionship that reflects the value they provide. As the debate intensified, the Khao Kheao Open Zoo released a formal statement. The zoo insisted that Mu Deng is being cared for according to international standards. It further explained that the images circulating online likely show feces excreted during the day. Authorities also confirmed that the keeper team cleans up and removes the animal feces every morning regularly. In a bid to reassure supporters further, the zoo highlighted plans already underway for a major habitat expansion. The proposed Hippo Village project will span 4 acres and is designed to accommodate 6 pygmy hippos and 7 great hippos. Mu Deng rose to fame in 2024. Born in July, the baby hippo went viral after zoo authorities started sharing her pictures and videos online. Be it Mu Deng being sprayed with water or squeaking while being lifted by her caretaker, the internet couldn't get enough. The number of people visiting the zoo also doubled after she went viral. Mu Deng may be small in stature, but she carries enormous symbolic weight. A creature adored by millions, scrutinized by thousands, and defended by those who argue that mud and mess are not always signs of misery, but of biology.
That's it on the show today, but we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.